that doesn't mean that everything is going to go smooth, right? Life is never about being perfect. What it means, though, is that when there are bumps and when there are issues, God will show up, and He's there, and He takes care of everything. Hello, and welcome to Coffee with Jesus. I am Todd Uebele, and I will be your host for this episode. Folks, one of the songs that's been kind of going through my head recently is Who You Say I Am. The chorus goes, "Who the sun sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am." And I love this song because it speaks to one of the core fundamentals of Christianity, and that is the freedom that we have in Christ Jesus. Jesus tells us in John chapter 8, he's talking to the Pharisees. And in verses 34 through 36, he tells us, "Very truly, I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." And folks, I love this because there are so many places in the Bible where it talks about the freedom that we have in Christ. And in this episode, I would like to explore that. The freedom we have from sin, the freedom we have from being slaves to the law, the freedom that we have from anxiety. We are free. If you are a follower of Jesus Christ, you are a child of the Most High God. You are free. You have that freedom in Jesus Christ. And so that's kind of what I would like to talk about in this episode. But before I get into the episode proper, folks, I have a really exciting announcement to share. Coffee with Jesus Ministries is going to be starting its own internet radio. Coffee with Jesus Radio premieres on Sunday, March 1st at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And folks, this is an exciting aspect for Coffee with Jesus Ministries. The ministry is dedicated to bringing hope and comfort to other people. We strive to encourage and uplift our brothers and sisters. And we do this through sharing our own personal testimonies. Myself, my co-hosts, our contributors, and our guests. We share how God has helped us through the storms that we've faced in life, in the hopes that you'll hear our testimonies and that you will know God is with you through your storms. And so this mission will continue with Coffee with Jesus Radio. On the radio, we'll do live broadcasts, kind of like our premiere. We'll also be able to play some of our back catalog from the podcast. We've been doing this for over 5 years now. We're almost 6 years. We're in the middle of our 6th season. So you'll be able to hear some of our back catalog. We'll also be playing content from other creators. One of our contributors, Ms. Sarah Tyler, has a podcast called From My Heart, I Give You Jesus. You'll be able to hear from her as well. And there's a couple of other content creators we're trying to line up. And then, like I said, there will be live broadcasts as well. And the overall purpose of Coffee with Jesus Radio is the same as our ministry, to bring that hope and that comfort to other people. So please join us on Sunday, March 1st at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time for the live premiere of Coffee with Jesus Radio. We'll have a whole bunch of giveaways for anybody who tunes in. Help support us as we launch this new venue to bring hope and comfort to everyone who needs it. Thank you so much for bearing with me, folks, and listening through my announcement. It's really exciting for us because we really just want to help our brothers and sisters wherever we can and through any medium we can. And this is a very exciting expansion for us. And I hope that you will be encouraged by this episode as well as we talk about the freedom that we have in Christ Jesus. I'd like to continue, if you permit me, with a verse from Galatians. Paul tells us in Galatians 5:1 It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by the yoke of slavery. And folks, this is a constant theme throughout the New Testament, right? Slavery to sin, slavery to the law, the yoke, the being burdened, right? Jesus lifts our burdens. Jesus sets us free. He frees us from that sinful nature. He frees us from the need to follow that law. But folks, there's something else he frees us from, and that's anxiety as well. You know, one of my all-time personal favorite passages comes from the book of Philippians. Philippians 4 verses 6 and 7, where Paul tells us, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So folks, here, the Bible is telling us to bring our anxiety to God, right? To make those requests to him. And that peace of Jesus will guard our hearts and minds. This is a peace that transcends all understanding. And I love this passage because those of you who have been listening for a while know I have anxiety, and there are some days where I'm doing a lot better, where I think, okay, I've got this licked. And folks, I'm going to be honest, there are times where I still struggle a little bit. One of the areas that I struggle the most is with traveling. Again, those of you who've been listening for a while, you know that I've done a couple of episodes about where God is in the details, right? And these are usually situations that involve traveling. Recently, I was in another situation where we were going to be traveling. My daughter, my baby girl, my princess, she turned 30, the big 30. And so we wanted to make a very exciting thing for her because turning 30 is a very big deal. So we planned out a trip to Nashville. We asked her all the things that she wanted to do. And we planned the trip around that. We found the hotel where she wanted to stay. We found a couple of things downtown that she wanted to do. As the trip was getting closer, I had my normal travel anxiety. And folks, because I've done this in the past and I knew God would be faithful, I did it again. I prayed and said, God, please be in the details of this trip. And I wasn't going to worry about anything that could go wrong with the driving, with the hotels, with any of the venues, finding things, everything, you name it. I had an anxiety for it. But God is faithful, folks, and God has proven faithful so many times that I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I asked God to be in the details, he would take care of things for me. And he did. He absolutely did. Now, folks, I've been to Nashville a few times, so I was a little familiar with the city. But there were a lot of places we were going I had never been to before, and a lot of them were downtown. And driving downtown any city can be harrowing at the best of times. But this was my baby girl, and this was her 30th birthday, and these were things that she wanted to do, so I was going to make it happen. But right from the beginning, like I said, I just asked God, please be in the details. And folks, he took care of everything. We started off with lunch at a restaurant that she had been wanting to go to for a while. This restaurant took reservations even for lunch, and they were very strict. If you miss your reservation, it was, there was a fee per person. So we set a reservation for a time we thought we could be there. But there was kind of a wrench thrown in the works. My daughter is going to be involved in a fashion show, and they were doing a photo shoot that morning. So we had to do our laundry and pack, get her to her photo shoot, and then make sure we could get to the restaurant on time for lunch. Oh, and since it was downtown, I had no idea where we were going to park either. Well, folks, God took care of everything. My wife took our daughter to the photo shoot. I finished the packing. By the time my wife got back, we finished all the little details of our packing and we hit the road. We actually got there like 45 minutes early. There was a parking garage right next door to the restaurant. And I turned right in. I found the restaurant very easily. Found the parking garage. And because of the time of day and the amount of time we were there, parking was even free, which, folks, downtown, free parking That's unheard of. And I went up to the hostess and I mentioned, hey, we have a reservation. I forgot about the time change. We're a little early. Is there any way you could fit us in now? And she said, oh, yeah, no problem. And a few minutes later, we were seated at our table. So in this particular case, things had gone even better than I had hoped, right? You have all these anxieties. You build things up in your head, and a lot of times you're hoping, I just want things to go smooth, right? But things went more than smooth. I mean, everything just lined up immediately. From when we got up that morning to when we made it to the restaurant, we got everything done. The packing, the photo shoot, the drive was about as smooth as you could make it. And just finding the restaurant and finding parking in downtown Nashville, perfect. It all worked out really, really well. And so we did lunch at the restaurant that she wanted to do. And then she also wanted to visit the Country Music Hall of Fame. And again, I found parking, no problem. There was a parking garage, again, right next to the museum. And folks, all this worked out so well that when we got to the hotel, it was check-in time. We didn't have to wait. We didn't have to worry about early check-in. Didn't have to worry about any of it. And not only that, but I was able to find a parking at this hotel that was right near the entrance where we needed to be to unload all of our bags. So again, some of these things may seem small on the grand scheme of things, but things had worked out just super smooth and super well, and better than I could hope. Again, every single detail, God was there. He was involved, folks. Now, folks, I want to make one note here because it's important to realize that while God is in the details and things will go smooth, doesn't mean everything is going to be perfect. It does mean that God is going to handle everything, though. There were a few minor issues with our hotel room. No problem. I went out of the front desk and I reported them. And, my family and we went out to dinner. And by the time I got back, everything was fixed. Like that. I'm not sure how that snap will come through. I may have to edit it out, but we'll see. But yeah, so God being in the details means he's going to take care of everything. It doesn't necessarily mean everything will go smooth, but it does mean that he will take care of it. And we were very blessed because everything for the most part did go smooth that first day. And even where we had issues with our hotel room, God was in the details. We went out to dinner, we came back, everything was fixed. So even though there were some bumps, if you will, God was still there. God is always there. He's always in the details. Sometimes it means things are going to go smooth like they did with the afternoon. And sometimes it means he'll take care of issues that arise like it did with our room. And I think that's important. A lot of times when I talk about how God is in the details, I share how smooth he makes things. I share the details that he was in, that he helped with. But it's also important to note that when God is in the details, things may not go perfect, right? There will be bumps in the road. But even in the bumps, God is there. God is in those details as well. And he was for us. Another thing I was really concerned about the weekend was the spa treatment. Now, my baby girl is 30. She's never been to a spa before. And she really wanted to do some spa treatments. Your typical, your facials and massages, that kind of thing. And so I set that up for her. Now, for those of you who are not aware, my daughter, she's very high functioning, but she does have autism spectrum disorder. My daughter is autistic. And so there was some anxiety there as well. I forgot to tell the spa staff that she was autistic. And I forgot to tell my daughter that at the end they were going to try to upsell her, because spas always do. They say, hey, buy all of our special types of moisturizers for 5 times more than you can find them at the other stores, And so there was, again, just being a dad, there were some anxieties that went along with her treatments. But again, everything went so smooth. It went so well. I showed up to pick her up a little bit early, and they let me hang out in their little, I don't know what it is, not a waiting room, but it was just a nice calm room with some soothing music and some infused water and snacks and, basic spa stuff, I guess you could say, like where people go to wait for their treatments. And again, sure enough, when my daughter was finished, they tried to upsell her on a whole bunch of things. And again, I should have warned her. I should have told her that ahead of time because spas always do that. But I forgot to tell her that. Fortunately, Since I was the one setting it up and I was the one taking care of all the charges, I was there to say, okay, well, we don't need that, and we don't need that, and we don't need that, and we don't need that. I mean, honestly, folks, they tried to upsell her so much it doubled the cost of all the treatments. I was just like, I don't know, when the guy told me the final amount, my heart skipped a beat. But again, I was there to say, okay, we don't need a lot of that upsell stuff. Let's just take this one little thing right here and the spot treatments, and we'll go from there. And the guy was good about it. He wasn't put out or anything like that. The staff at the spa were very friendly. They were doing their jobs. I mean, but they do the hard sell. I mentioned to one of the employees how much I liked their infused water. And she tried to sell me the little jar that they have the infused juice. I guess you've seen these things where you can enhance your water. You put a few drops in, and it tastes whatever kind of fruit or flavor that you're fond of, and that's what the infused water was. It was just a few drops of this little concentrate. And they wanted to sell me that too. I'm like, no, I'm good, thank you. But overall, folks, the weekend went very, very well. My daughter loved it. She said she felt fancy all weekend, from the restaurants that we ate at to her spa treatments. She loved it. She ate it up, and she had a blast. And that was really the whole point of the trip, right? It was for her to feel special on her 30th birthday. And it was great. And I got to even say, even coming back, when all is said and done, the smoothest road trip I'd ever had. The drive was super smooth. We got home in record time, even. Now, part of that might have been my driving. But in my defense, I was past quite a bit. When you ask God to be in the details, folks, He shows up. When you ask God for help, He's there. And He doesn't just take care of the details. He takes care of the details in such a way that you will be amazed. And again, that doesn't mean that everything is going to go smooth, right? Life is never about being perfect. What it means, though, is that when there are bumps and when there are issues, God's there too. God's taking care of those as well. So you don't need to worry about anything. Folks, I had an almost anxiety-free weekend. I'm going to be honest, when my daughter was doing the spa treatments, I was still a little anxious because even though she's 30, she's still my baby girl. But the whole weekend was virtually anxiety-free because I just knew that God would take care of things. I knew that God would be in the details. And folks, it doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is, God is there. If you bring it to God, like it tells us in Philippians, present your requests to God through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, right? God will show up. God will be there, and He will take care everything that you need, even things you can't anticipate, right? Now, when it comes to anxiety, it's usually the exact opposite. You're usually anticipating things that just don't happen. At least that's what anxiety is for me, or part of it. But with God, He takes care of things that you couldn't even imagine, right? So folks, I would love to encourage you today. Take the freedom that we have in Christ and use that to free you from your anxiety. Now, this is not a one-time thing. Trust me, I still deal with anxiety. But I have seen God work amazing things. I have witnessed firsthand in my own life how God has taken care of my anxieties and how He has gone so far above and beyond. And I am still amazed by it. And sometimes, folks, it's little things like the short weekend trip I had for my daughter for her big 3-0 birthday, right? And in other times, folks, I've talked about some of the ways God has helped me in Afghanistan. I've talked about how God has helped me on the traveling coming from the middle of Afghanistan to my home, and how He was in the details of every step and every leg, every little thing you could think of. God was there, and He took care of it for me. And so whenever anything happens, and again, with me, it's usually traveling. For some reason, any sort of traveling, flying, road trips, trains, buses, doesn't matter. Traveling for me usually involves a little bit of anxiety. But I have learned to bring it to God. I have learned to ask God to be in the details. And each and every time I do that, He shows up and he's there and he takes care of everything. So I would like to encourage you all, folks, don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. It can be with something big. It can be with something small. It can be with something in between. Take it to God, right? Like the Bible tells us, present your requests to God. Because that peace, that is truly a peace that passes understanding, folks. And it will truly guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So try it. Go to God. Bring him your requests. Ask him to be in the details. And I promise you, folks, you will be amazed. And again, that doesn't mean that everything is going to go perfect or perfectly smooth. But what it does mean is that God will take care of every little detail that we can think of and every little detail that we cannot. So give it a shot, folks. Bring it to God. Ask God to be in the details and watch him show up for you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And may God bless each and every one of you.